Spider-Man Far From Home is the perfect light and punchy palate cleanser to the dark and highly depressing Avengers Endgame. It not only brings the third phase of MCU movies to a soft finale, but concludes the collective Infinity Saga by tying loose ends and giving closure, while also opening new doors and providing hints towards the next phase and saga of the MCU, not only in the movie itself, but also in the post-film credit scenes. In this video, I'll be running through the two scenes, as well as a few of the movie's finer points, and discussing what they mean to the future of the MCU at large. So of course, it goes without saying, this video will include some pretty heavy spoilers from Far From Home. Remember the end of Spider-Man Homecoming when we all sat there like goons waiting for a little potential teaser of Infinity War and then got trolled by Captain America? It said that Homecoming didn't have a proper post-credit scene because Marvel was keeping pretty tight-lipped around the Sony camp and didn't want anything too major to slip out of the house. Luckily, it seems Marvel may have opened up a little, given that Far From Home's post-credits are actually quite substantial, making quite clear that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are going to have an enormous role to play in the future of the franchise. Of course, Far From Home spends most of its runtime focusing on Peter finding his place in the world and coming to grips with the fact that he's been pegged to be the next Tony Stark, struggling with the burden of having to live up to such an enormous figure and having to leave the real world behind to pick up enormous responsibility. The movie ends with the death of Mysterio and the world finding a new leading hero in Spider-Man, and closes the saga out giving the impression that our friendly neighborhood superhero is quite clearly going to be the face of the franchise going forward. That is, of course, until a few minutes after the initial credits begin to run, as the first post-credit scene picks up immediately after the movie, with Spidey and MJ swinging through New York City. As they land directly in front of Madison Square Garden, a breaking news story comes on over the large LED screens. The news anchor announces that a piece of footage has been leaked by an anonymous source on the internet, showing Mysterio moments before his death. It shows a staged and doctored recording of the events designed to implicate Spider-Man as being behind the alleged Stark Tech-aided attacks, claiming his motive is to become the next Iron Man before anyone else. It's also further implied that Mysterio was innocently and mercilessly executed by Spider-Man. Obviously, we as the audience know that this is all part of Mysterio's trickery, but it's most likely that everybody viewing in-world believes it to be true. We even see MJ watching on, who seems to be somewhat conflicted, second-guessing whether Peter does in fact have malicious ulterior motives. This, of course, has major implications for future Spidey outings. Just as we think everything is perfect, Spidey is a hero and the world's next Iron Man, with MJ now his girlfriend, his world instantaneously falls apart. Even more so when the video shows Mysterio revealing his identity to the world with an image of Peter flashing on the screen. It's quite possible that the next Spidey film or future MCU event movies will depict Peter trying to clear his name. I guess it's a superhero movie trope that has been done to death by now, the public turning against the superhero, but this could certainly go in interesting directions, especially now that his secret identity is known publicly. It's also interesting to note that as Spidey is set to be the next Tony Stark, how his journey opens with parallels to the opening of Stark's own journey, with his secret identity becoming public knowledge very early on too. Difference here is, Stark's reveal was his decision and was met with praise from the public. So it is quite possible that Spidey and Peter's journey will take on a reversal of Stark's, which could be very interesting to watch. Spidey's identity has of course been revealed in the comics before, with him unmasking himself during the Civil War event. However, this had barely any ramifications, with comic writers wiping everyone's memories soon after. He is hoping that this actually does leave a lasting effect on the MCU and opens up another crisis for Peter. We're also left to wonder, how did this footage get doctored and leaked with Mysterio dying? Was his death another grand illusion, or was the entire thing planned beforehand and staged in a last-ditch effort to bring Spidey down while Mysterio made a grand sacrifice? With Mysterio, the master of illusion, I find it very hard to believe that he is actually dead. I wouldn't count him out of the MCU just yet, especially considering how much we know Sony have wanted to produce a Sinister Six project for the last decade. decade. As the news bulletin comes to a close, it's revealed that Mysterio's video was leaked via the Daily Bugle, the newspaper from classic Spidey stories, now a controversial news website in its MCU form. Shown on the screen next is a commentary video of Daily Bugle presenter J Jonah Jameson, played by K Simmons, who portrayed the character in the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. This is obviously a different take on the character and not supposed to be linked to the earlier films, but Simmons is so iconic and beloved in the role, it's obvious that Marvel was on the same page as fans and found him simply irreplaceable. It's interesting to see the Daily Bugle now being depicted as a controversial news website instead of a newspaper, and J Jonah being depicted as an Alex Jones type conspiracy news theorist. Though considering Jonah's history of planting Spider-Man conspiracies in his papers in an effort to take him down, it seems like a pretty logical take on the character in this 21st century MCU world. It's also interesting to see how this version of the character is quite similar to that featured on the recent PS4 Spider-Man game, where he appears as a conspiracy news radio host. What this scene says to me most of all is that despite fears Sony were going to rip Spidey out of the MCU as soon as they got the chance, it looks like they're gonna let him stick around for quite a while, considering at this early point, he appears to be a major part of the catalyst and a vestibule for world building for the upcoming phase and saga. The second and final post-credit scene sees Nick Fury and Maria Hill driving in a car, quite similar to the post-credit scene of Avengers Infinity War. However, as they begin a conversation, they're both revealed to be shape-shifting Skrulls, specifically Talos and wife Soren from Captain Marvel, who have been masquerading as Fury and Hill for the entire film. It's then revealed that Fury is off-world on a Skrull ship somewhere as he communes with Talos back on Earth. This not only tells us that the Skrulls are likely going to have a larger role to play in the future of the MCU, possibly hinting towards a secret invasion saga, but tells us that there's quite possibly plenty left to reveal about the MCU going forward. For one, considering the events of Captain Marvel occurred during the mid-1990s, and Fury is still working with the Skrulls roughly 30 years later in the MCU world of 2023, it makes us wonder whether the Nick Fury that we know has been Talos all along, or whether it's been a combination of the two drifting in and out of our heroes' lives. I mean, remember when Nick Fury faked his own death and then fell off the face of the earth for quite a while? Well, maybe we finally have the answer to where he was all that time. Maybe he literally was off the face of the earth. This also opens up a whole can of worms with Maria Hill, and considering her fairly sporadic appearances in the MCU, it makes me wonder if she is an actual person after all, or simply an identity created by Fury and the Skrulls, especially as she's nowhere to be seen on the Skrull ship at the end. If I were to theorize, I'd say that every time we have seen Fury in the past alongside Maria Hill, it's been Talos and Soren, and every time we've seen Fury without her, it's actually been Fury. Again, this explains how Fury and Hill just came out of thin air during Avengers Age of Ultron. This could also further explain why Captain Marvel was never called on by Nick Fury in past films, as they both quite possibly could have been pulling strings on Earth from outer space in the Skrull ship this entire time, and she simply knew she just wasn't needed. It also makes me wonder if Fury is so involved with the Skrulls, how many other characters close to him are Skrulls too? Whatever eventuates, it's obvious that the MCU is going in bold new directions. Things are getting shaken up, and it's quite possible everything we once thought we knew was in fact a grand illusion all along. Only time will tell, and I cannot wait to see what's next. How about you guys out there? What are your thoughts on the post-credit scenes to Spider-Man Far From Home, and where do you think the MCU is going in the future? Fire away in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts. Excelsior! If this is your first time viewing one of my videos and you'd like to see more like it in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen, as well as that like button down below for that little extra support. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.
Hi, I'm Captain America. Here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have. Patience.